Senator John Kennedy adjusted the stack of fresh intelligence dossiers on his mahogany desk, the sound of the papers cutting through the room's tense silence. He peered over the rim of his glasses at Ilhan Omar, who sat stoically, likely aware of the breaking news, but perhaps underestimating the depth of his knowledge. Congresswoman, before we address foreign policy, we must discuss the catastrophe that occurred at dawn in your home district, Kennedy began with gravity. While you were sleeping, 500 federal agents breached what was ostensibly a governor's mansion, but was actually a command center for a global criminal enterprise, he stated firmly. Omar shifted in her seat and replied sharply, Senator, I am not responsible for the actions of a state governor, regardless of his party affiliation. Kennedy raised a hand to interrupt, his voice dropping to a dangerous low register as he clarified the situation. This was not a simple police raid, ma'am, but rather a chaotic war zone. Agents faced automatic gunfire from 300 armed guards protecting a stockpile of heroin and fentanyl large enough to decimate the Midwest, he explained. Worse yet, they discovered over $7 billion in liquid cash concealed within the basement walls, Kennedy added. That magnitude of wealth does not accumulate without significant political protection and friends in high places, he asserted. Omar leaned into her microphone, retorting, This is guilt by association, and it is beneath the dignity of this committee. Kennedy remained unmoved as he produced a photograph from his file to counter her objection. Let us discuss the courier arrested yesterday, who had hundreds of millions in her trunk, he said grimly. Her travel logs align with mathematical precision to your official calendar, Kennedy observed. Whenever the governor held private meetings, you were present in the district. And when shipments cleared customs, you were attacking the agencies investigating them, he noted. Over $40 billion moved through shell companies while you preached justice, effectively shielding a trafficking operation, he concluded. Omar slammed her hand on the table, shouting, That is a fabrication and a slanderous lie designed to smear our community. Kennedy leaned forward with eyes as cold as ice, replying, The community is mourning because they realize their elected officials betrayed them for blood money. We found the tunnels, the logistics hub, and communications implying federal cover beneath the property, he revealed. This was betrayal woven into the government, yet you claim to know nothing of the industrial operation in your backyard, Kennedy pressed. Omar's eyes blazed as she stated, I will not sit here and be accused of criminal conspiracy without evidence. Kennedy sat back with a grim smile, noting, The evidence is currently filling warehouses as we speak. This narcotics operation existed because one man allowed it and many others looked away, he said. However, this betrayal transcends money and touches upon the core question of who you truly serve, Kennedy transitioned. Congresswoman, if the United States and Somalia went to war tomorrow, which side would you want to win? He asked. The question hung in the air like smoke, silencing every person in the hearing room. Senator Kennedy's casual drawl made the inquiry sound simple, but everyone knew it was a devastating culmination of the questioning. Ilhan Omar sat frozen, her usual confidence draining away in the face of this binary choice. She had survived partisan attacks before, but this was a simple question of loyalty between two nations. 20 seconds of agonizing silence passed while the cameras zoomed in on her hesitation. That is a ridiculous hypothetical, she finally said with a defensive edge. Kennedy did not raise his voice, replying, It is a simple question that any American should be able to answer instantly. I am asking you again, which side would you want to see victorious? He persisted. Omar calculated the political cost, knowing any answer would damage her standing with one of her constituencies. I refuse to engage with Islamophobic hypotheticals designed to question my loyalty, she deflected. Kennedy countered gently, I have not mentioned your religion once, only your national allegiance. He lifted a document from his stack, stating, We have recordings of you telling audiences that our homeland is under attack by America. You have referred to Somalia as home in the present tense 43 times in recent years, he noted. Omar argued, I can have a complex identity. Kennedy retorted, You may love your heritage, but you swore an oath to only one constitution. So, for the last time, if the two nations fought, who would you want to win? He asked. 30 seconds of silence stretched out, becoming the longest pause in modern congressional history. Suddenly, a Somali-American woman in the audience stood up and spoke clearly. Just say America, Ilhan, she pleaded, her voice cutting through the tension. My family fled here and chose this country as our home, so why can't you say the same? The woman asked. Omar looked at the woman in shock, realizing she had lost the support of her own base. Omar looked to her lawyers, but they offered no assistance as they stared at their notes. She stood up abruptly, gathering her papers with trembling hands to leave. I will not sit here and participate in this racist circus, she announced to the chairman. Kennedy warned, Congresswoman, you are still under oath and cannot simply walk out. Watch me, she replied, signaling her team to scramble and follow her. If you leave without answering, everyone watching will know exactly what your silence means, Kennedy called out. She stopped at the door, stating, I do not owe you or anyone else proof of my loyalty. Kennedy replied, The oath requires renouncing foreign allegiance, which you have failed to do. Omar pushed through the doors and vanished, leaving the room in absolute chaos. Kennedy sat calmly, organizing his papers into neat stacks, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. To understand this dramatic exit, one must look back 90 minutes to the start of the hearing. The room had been packed with media following a report on Omar's secret coordination with the Somali government. Investigations had revealed phone logs and financial records showing money flowing from foreign sources to her campaign. A clear pattern showed she communicated with Somali officials immediately after receiving classified briefings. Consequently, the committee had subpoenaed her to testify under oath regarding these improprieties. Omar had arrived confident in her ability to survive what she viewed as another political attack. She wore a bright purple suit and was accompanied by high-profile lawyers to handle the optics. However, Kennedy had spent 6 weeks preparing for this specific encounter, digging deeper than just financial issues. He had looked beyond the surface to the core issue of her divided loyalty. His team had compiled every public statement she had made regarding her homeland. They found she consistently identified Somalia as home while referring to America merely as this country. 43 instances of this language were documented in just the past 5 years. Furthermore, her voting record aligned perfectly with Somali government interests against American policy. In 12 separate instances, she voted to favor Somalia immediately after meetings with foreign officials. Kennedy had organized this evidence into a binder to let her answers tell the story. The hearing began with standard partisan opening statements before Kennedy took the floor. He started his questioning gently, praising her extraordinary immigrant success story to lower her guard. When you became a citizen, you took an oath to renounce all foreign allegiance, he reminded her. You also swore to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, he added. I need to know if you have truly honored those solemn promises, Kennedy stated. He asked if she had met with Somali government officials, to which she gave a vague affirmative. Kennedy specified that she had attended 47 such meetings and asked if she registered them under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. "I was not acting as a foreign agent, so I did not register," she claimed in defense. Kennedy noted her failure to register and moved to the next topic. "Let us discuss how you describe your relationship with Somalia," he proposed. He cited a speech where she claimed, "Our homeland was under attack by American drones." "When you say our homeland, are you referring to Somalia or the United States?" he asked. Omar tried to explain she was a Somali American with pride in her roots. Kennedy countered that while heritage is cultural, political allegiance must be singular. "You speak of Somalia as home, but you never use that word for the United States," he observed. Kennedy displayed a chart showing her voting history regarding Somalia to the cameras. She had opposed sanctions on terrorists and oversight for foreign aid in 12 separate votes. "Every single vote occurred shortly after you met with Somali officials," Kennedy pointed out. "This suggests coordination rather than coincidence," he asserted. Omar insisted she voted her conscience, but the correlation was damning. Kennedy then addressed the substantial financial contributions to her campaign. "You received nearly $1 million from groups linked to the Somali government," he stated. He noted her husband's consulting firm also received increased payments from similar sources. "You are being paid by foreign interests while voting in their favor," Kennedy accused. "This represents a clear conflict of interest and a betrayal of public service," he concluded. He turned to her access to classified intelligence on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Records showed she contacted Somali officials immediately after receiving sensitive briefings. 17 times you made these calls within 48 hours of receiving intelligence," Kennedy revealed. "This pattern suggests you are sharing information with a foreign power," he said. Omar denied compromising classified data, but the timeline was undeniable. Kennedy called a Somali American constituent, Amina Hassan, to the microphone to testify. Amina expressed her disappointment, stating that Omar did not represent their community's values. "My family chose America because Somalia failed us, and we are proud to call this country home," she declared emotionally. "We are Americans now, but you still act as if Somalia is your priority," Amina told Omar. She concluded that Omar represented a foreign government, not her actual constituents. Kennedy summarized the evidence of her divided loyalties and posed the final question again. "If the two countries went to war, who would you want to win?" he asked. Omar's refusal to answer created a deafening silence in the room that spoke volumes. Even after the audience pleaded with her to choose America, she refused to say the words. She stormed out, claiming she did not owe anyone proof of her loyalty. Short clips of her silence went viral immediately, trending nationally within hours. The question of which side she supported dominated the news cycle. Even liberal news outlets found her refusal to answer the simple question troubling. Her silence is an answer in itself, analysts commented on every major network. The narrative had shifted completely, damaging her reputation beyond repair. The Somali American community released statements condemning her lack of allegiance to the United States. Investigations were quickly opened by the Justice Department and House Ethics Committee. Polls showed a majority of voters believed she had divided loyalties and should resign. A primary challenger announced his campaign, emphasizing his undivided love for America. He immediately took a double-digit lead in the polls against her. Her political allies issued weak statements that failed to defend her refusal to answer. Omar released multiple explanations, but never simply stated she would support America. Kennedy later explained that it was only a gotcha question if one was disloyal. If she were loyal, the answer would have been instant and easy, he said. Her inability to answer truthfully sealed her political fate. 6 months later, She lost her primary election by a historic 18-point margin. Her concession speech ignored the question that had destroyed her career. The lesson was that a representative must have singular allegiance to the United States. You cannot serve two masters in the halls of Congress. Her silence spoke louder than any defense she could offer.